Thank you, Kathy. And we appreciate you doing this. And we want to welcome everyone. We're going to read the Gracie's Guide to Cyber Safety. And before we start, I want to tell you a little bit about Gracie and how she all got started. A few years ago, I had my first book published, and it was called Dory's Gift. And it was about a little girl who lived in the early 1900s. And I wrote that story, and then I started writing a lot of stories because we started a series, the Appalachian Heritage series. So I started writing a lot in that time period. And even a chapter book, I mean, thousands of words. And it required a lot of research, a lot of things I had to look up to see what was going on at that time. And so one day I just sat down, I was like, I want something different. I want a little modern girl that I won't have to do so much research on. So I decided to do something totally opposite of Dory. Dory lived in a big family with her mom and dad. So I created Gracie, who is an only child, and she lives with just her mom. It's a single parent. And so things were started rolling with that. I wrote a mystery called The Mystery at Darcy's Discount Store. This was the first Gracie story, and it started going really well. What was great was kids fell in love with Gracie, and a lot of grown-ups did too. So I wrote a second mystery, The Mystery in the Window. And I do a lot of school visits. I really enjoy going out to schools. And I wanted something shorter that I could read to the kids. And I didn't want just a funny, silly story about Gracie, but I wanted something that would kind of maybe help the kids. So I started thinking about what are some issues that kids face. And one of the things that they face is bullying. So the first Gracie's Guide that I wrote was on bullying. And so I was contacted by Travis Helmendaller, he was with Community Connections at the time, and he was over all of the SAD chapters in West Virginia, and that's Students Against Destructive Decisions. And so he had written a curriculum, and bullying was one of the topics, and he had 4 other topics. And he said, would you be willing to write, some more stories to go with this curriculum? So I said, sure, that would be great. So we started rolling from there, and then the guides have just really picked up. They have helped a lot of kids. I started out thinking if these books can help one child, it would be worth it. And, I think they've really helped a lot of kids. We've used them in a lot of different areas. And with the cyber safety, and I think it's really important now with the pandemic and how so many kids are in their homes now, that this book is a really important book to read right now. And you may want to talk a little bit about what's going on with some cyber safety issues.
When you have your kids on tablets, they're going to be on tablets more, iPads, computers, things of that nature, because their activity is limited. But when they're on there as a parent, it then falls on you to make sure that when your child is on there, that they're using the internet safely or whatever program they're using. And we can get into that here in a little bit about things that you can do as a parent and steps to take to keep your child secure while using the internet or even video game systems. There's chat rooms for video games. You can do interactions on video games. So we can get into that here in a little bit also.
This, by the way, is Lieutenant Jeremy Halsey.
Hello.
This is my husband, Dr. Derek Wilson, who's joined us, and Derek is with Community Connections as well. So we're going to let Lieutenant Halsey read, and I'm going to show you the pictures while he reads.
The box sat on the kitchen table with a birthday card attached to the top with Gracie's name written in big purple circle letters. Curly Q letters, excuse me. It was a medium-sized box that was not heavy and was super quiet when shaken. Gracie's mom had wrapped it and placed it on the table 3 days before her birthday. Needless to say, Gracie's curiosity was about to get the best of her. She had picked it up and carefully examined it hundreds of times, but she was just as clueless to its contents on the 3rd day as she had been on the 1st. And so, when the clock struck midnight on her birthday, she jumped out of bed, ran down the hall, and burst into her mom's bedroom. "Mom, wake up! Wake up! Wake up!" Gracie shouted. Her mom sat straight up in bed. Today she was To say she was startled was an understatement as she inquired, Gracie, what is it? What's wrong? Gracie's face beamed as she proclaimed, It's my birthday. She looked on her mom's face quickly, turned into an angry look as she scolded the young girl, Grace and Faith, how many times have I told you to only wake me when it's an emergency? I'm sorry, Mom, but it's officially my birthday. I've waited for 3 days to open my gift. Will you let me, please, please, please? Gracie asked in her sweetest possible voice. No, absolutely not. You turn right around and go back to your room, Mom said as she fell back into her soft bed. Gracie, realizing it was hopeless, slowly turned and went back to her room where she lay awake for hours. She finally fell asleep and didn't hear Mom open the door at 5:45 and stand above her with 3 loud birthday blowers in hand. Happy birthday, Gracie, Mom yelled and blew the blowers as loudly as possible. This time it was Gracie who sat straight up in bed, startled. But it didn't take her long for her to be fully awake and jump out of bed. She ran and grabbed the gift and tore into it like Christmas morning. And boy, was she ever surprised. It was her very own tablet. She jumped up and down and squealed for 10 minutes. This was without a doubt the best birthday gift ever. She spent the next 2 weeks glued to her screen, well, as much as her mom would allow. She quickly realized there were apps for everything. Her mom had given permission to download several of them, as it was enough to keep her busy. She had an app for homework assignments, drawing, coloring, and a variety of games. She also created 2 virtual pets, 3 virtual instruments, and stayed busy with the babysitting app. When she was not occupied with those things, she had her very own virtual nail salon, hair studio, and she cooked up the yummiest looking concoctions in her kids' cafe. Gracie's friends were chatting on social media together, so she thought it would be cool to join. She was glad her mom agreed because every night there were multiple conversations going on. Most of them were a bunch of blabbing about nothing, and Gracie loved to blab, so it was perfect. Before long, Gracie began to lose sleep because of her virtual pets. She would hear a notification from the app that she needed to feed one of her kittens at 3 a.m. in the morning. Really? Gracie was that kind of kid who loved her sleep. This interruption had to stop. The only way to put an end to this was to delete Chip and Dip, her 2 Siamese kittens. She kind of felt bad about it, but her mom said, Gracie, they are not real. You cannot hold them or pet them. It is okay to delete the app. She thought about Braden, a guy in her class at school, who often sleeps through most of the morning because he's awake half the night, saving the world on some crazy game. His grades suffered because of his addiction to games. He was also in a bad mood a lot. She didn't know if it was his lack of sleep or playing war games that made him that way. But Gracie did not want her grades to suffer. She thought about what her mom said, and it made sense. So she quickly deleted them before she changed her mind. She felt much better after a perfect night's sleep. As the newness of the tablet wore off, she slowly began to delete more of the apps that did nothing more than occupy her time. She still enjoyed playing on it every day and chatting with her friends. She especially liked the app that let her send videos to her friends. It was the coolest thing ever. It became an after-school ritual to get a snack, do her homework, and then spend time taking selfies. She got to be a pro at changing up her picture and adding silly features to her face, and most of her friends were doing the same thing. They tried to see who could do the most craziness to their picture. They posted their selfies to see how many comments they could get. They went on for months. One day she received a message from a guy named Martin who had just said, "Hey, what's up?" Gracie didn't know him, but thought about it. Was it okay to just chit-chat with him? He began to chat with her every night for the next several weeks about her silly selfies. He was always cracking jokes and making her laugh. She felt like he was becoming her friend. One night she was awakened by a loud ding which told her she had a new message. It was from Martin. He told her that she looked pretty and would like to meet up with her sometime. Gracie quickly said no because she was too sleepy to think about it. She put the tablet down and was asleep within a few minutes. The next night, she was once again awakened by a ding. She sat up and thought, what in the world? She picked up the tablet and saw that it was another message from Martin. He asked her again about meeting him. This time, he told her they could go to dinner in town. Gracie thought about it for a while, but was too sleepy to give it a thought, so she ignored it and went back to sleep. The next night, Martin asked her again. She said her mom probably wouldn't let her because she did not know him. He told her it was okay to meet with him because he was a friend and she could trust him. He said that sometimes parents act weird about adults being friends with their kids, but it really wasn't a big deal. It happens all the time. He just wanted to see her. He told her this time he would buy her cheese fries, soda, and a double-decker chocolate chip ice cream cone. Gracie thought about it for a minute. It was so tempting to say yes because those are her favorite yummy things. But she felt something wasn't right. Gracie is not only a smart kid, but she's also a super spy. She loves nothing more than investigating the world around her. And as an investigator, she was so sure something was not right with this guy. Maybe because he called her pretty and that felt a little weird, or possibly because he knew her favorite things to eat. And he would have had to have stalked her closely to know that because she had never talked about it. They were also just something inside that was telling her that kids do not meet up with strangers. Mom, she yelled, wake up. Her mom sat straight up in bed with this had better be an emergency look on her face. Gracie did not give her time to say a word, but quickly explained all about Martin. Mom jumped up out of bed and ran and grabbed the tablet and read every single message. She hugged Gracie and told her she was very proud of her for doing the right thing by telling her about Martin. She said she was going to keep the tablet and talk to the authorities. She thanked her for waking her up because this was most definitely an emergency. Gracie's mom talked to Officer Jeremy, a policeman at their local station, and he asked her to bring Gracie down to the station so they could do an interview her. Gracie wasn't sure what would happen, but her mom said that they would just ask her a few questions. Officer Jeremy was super nice, and when he was finished with the questions, he gave Gracie a brand new notebook and a pack of gel pens. She couldn't wait to use those pens to write down clues on her next case. A few weeks later, Officer Jeremy called and informed them that they had the guy and had been caught. That he had set up a trap to trick Martin, and it worked. They pretended to be Gracie on the app and started chatting with him. They agreed to meet with him at dinner, and sure enough, he showed up. Boy, was Martin surprised when Gracie was Officer Jeremy. They were glad to know that he wouldn't be doing that kind of thing anymore. Gracie's mom hugged her once again and was so happy the story had a good ending for her daughter. She told her the rule, never talk to strangers, also applies to people you can't see, like those who are online. There are also times that people you know will make rude or hurtful comments. It is important to talk to adults about this type of behavior and to never participate in anything that would hurt someone else. Gracie thought about how it felt when someone insulted her, and she knew it wasn't a good feeling. She did not want to make anyone else feel that way. Gossip, rumors, lies, and threats are serious issues. I want you to tell me or another caring adult if this happens to you or anyone else you know, Mom said. Gracie thought about it for a moment and then ran and grabbed her notebook and gel pens. She wrote a message to display in her bedroom that will help her remember to be aware of the dangers of the internet. Be on guard when you're online.
Thank you.
You betcha. Thank you, Lieutenant Halsey, for sharing that book with us. Now, I know as a parent, we're very concerned about technology, and I know you have a small kid or two. What are some things that you do to kind of guide their use of tablets and the internet?
Well, my wife and I, we work together. She's a teacher also. She's knows how to work more of those apps than I do, and she's set up passwords for certain things. And we've also taught our kids that if they want anything on the tablet or iPad that they want to play, to come speak with us first before it's ever downloaded to the tablet. If we've talked to our kids about the dangers of strangers online, and if you get weird messages or anything like that, to let your mom and dad know, which would be me and my wife, and we would take care of it. Never take it upon yourself. Always ask is what we tell our kids.
And I think that's some good suggestions. I know when I was growing up as a kid, you had boundaries that your parents would often set, that you had to play in this yard or in the neighbor's yard, or if they had a fenced-in yard, you had to stay inside that yard. And I think what you're talking about is putting the passwords. Those are like boundaries to where kids and our grandkids know how to play and participate in. And I think those are some good options and good ideas. Let me ask you something. How often do you run into situations where you have individuals like this Martin in the story who try to get in contact with the kids?
It would, honestly, it happens way more than I like. One time is too many, but it does happen more regular than what you think. But we work diligently to try to take care of what's going on, because the children are the victims, and that's just something we won't stand for. And if things like that happen to your child, we recommend that whether or not you're in the city of Princeton, you go to the Mercer County Sheriff's Office, state police, or whatever agency is around you, and talk to them and express what's going on. There's so much more that goes on out there that people just don't talk about. Sometimes they're embarrassed to mention it, and I encourage you to let us know, because you may have taken care of your problem, but just like this story, somebody else will be a victim if you don't do anything else about it when you could have stopped it.
We have a question on here from a young lady by the name of Kathy, and the question is do you and Lieutenant Halsey do school visits? I believe that's to you, Angie, and to you, Lieutenant Halsey. Do you guys do school visits?
I do school visits as much as I can. I'm also a teacher, but I do manage to get some school visits in, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I love going in and sharing the stories and talking to kids and answering their questions. So yes, I do, and I know you do too.
Yes. So I work for the city of Princeton in Princeton, West Virginia. But I don't just stop inside the city. I do go out to schools out in the county, because if somebody's asking for help or they want us to talk to their kids, nobody's going to mind that you're not working in your area, that you try to outreach to other areas. I've been to many schools. I've been to a lot of schools. And the best part and most rewarding part about it is after you get done talking to these kids, they don't forget. They see you out, they come up and give you a hug or high five, So yes, we do visit a lot of schools, and that's also very rewarding.
We have another question about summer camps in the area. Now, normally we do have some summer camps in the area, but with the virus, are they on hold right now?
Yes, unfortunately, right now we do the Princeton Police Explorers program. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. We usually do it in the fall and the spring. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we've had to postpone our plans, which is unfortunate because we had so much fun stuff for the kids to do this spring. But we look forward to once everything gets done, and hopefully then we can get back to work.
Speaking of the Princeton Police Explorers, that has been a successful program here in our area, and I've noticed that it's starting to branch out into other counties here in the state. You had the first Princeton Police Explorers here in this county. Why don't you tell us a little bit how that got birthed and what you do at the Explorers?
So Community Connections reached out to the Princeton Police Department, and the former chief at the time and the assistant chief came to me because I'm more or less a big kid. And and I guess, I see kids out and, play football with them or see them at the school, talk to them. So they come to me and asked if I'd be willing to do it. And once I found out what we were doing to try to reach the kids and have programming, because some kids, when they leave school, they have nothing else. Some kids may not have friends or they don't have activities to do. And a lot of parents come and they want their child to further their education. So with the first series that we did, which was with a phenomenal author, we had a book series that we taught from each week. And then on top of that, we would have other entities that law enforcement work with. We have had the National Guard or Army. We've had the Princeton Fire Department, Rescue Squad, that we've done and incorporated into the Explorers program. So they come and they learn about the books and we teach them that. And then we try to have some activities afterwards because everybody loves a fireman. They like the fire trucks, but, we try to show them the equipment that we use too. And in that program, we talk to the kids a lot about not trying to be afraid of police officers. And trust me, by the time they leave, they're not. They realize that we're human just like they are. And a lot of the tools that we carry we have to, it's to keep everyone safe.
And they get to see your car. And
They get to see the cars. They get to see our police canines. They love the canines too.
Mm.
So we usually try to save the canine for the end of the programming. So we get their attention up until the dog comes in.
Well, that is exciting, because what we have seen here in our community is the fact that our police officers care for you, and they want to protect us, and they want to keep us safe. And I'm very thankful for folks like you and Chief Gray that have been so supportive, in our state police. It's very exciting to watch you guys reach out. I remember dropping by for one police explore session where we had the rescue squad there, and the kids got up in the back of the rescue squad, got to lay down on the cot. And I thought, so often they face emergencies and they're afraid, and here's an opportunity to help them work through that fear. Let's take a few more questions here. I have a question here also from says, do you reach out beyond the Princeton police for your camps and activities? And you had mentioned that you go out into the county. Have you done anything outside the county yet?
I have not done anything outside the county, but if I was asked, absolutely I would. As a law enforcement community, if somebody's trying to help, absolutely have at it, and that's what we try to do. We all try to work together and reach out into our community.
I can suggest to you that if you are interested in more information about the Police Explorers, you may be able to go online to Community Connections Incorporated, or you can Derek, DEREK, at strongcommunities.org, and we can help you set up that and provide the resources for setting up a Police Explorers. What were you going to say?
I was just saying we have them in several other towns here.
We do.
Outside of Princeton. I think there's 4 more.
There's
or 4 total.
There may be
in our county.
5 or 6, because I believe every small incorporated community or unincorporated is actually doing that here. I have another couple of communities right now that are interested in buying the Gracie's Guides, and are looking to start that and launch that program in their community, in other counties that are wanting to start that. I see a question here. How has COVID-19 changed local police work?
It had changed a lot for us. I mean, we still had to go out and do our job, obviously, but when it came to the COVID-19, we had to revamp how we were doing things. We had to lock our building, so the interaction with the public was limited, so we could keep us, our families, and the community safe, and hopefully not passing anything around. With the traffic stops, we slowed down our traffic stops, and it was mainly just as needed. If they're posing a great risk to the public, then we would do what we have to stop the car and enforce the law. There's certain situations though that you didn't have time to put on your emergency equipment or your PPE, because the situation was so fluid. Sometimes you just have to take the risk because you can't get your stuff ready fast enough. But it's definitely been very eye-opening and makes you realize how much more prepared that you need to be for something like this. Because I don't know that anybody, in law enforcement saw this, 4 or 5 months ago, to where we would have to take these steps.
That's with all of us, I think.
Yeah, the whole community. Yeah,
it's changing everywhere. For a fact, I've got an adjacent county that is wanting to order the Gracie Guides to do virtual online camps with their kids. And speaking of the Gracie Guides, Angie, there's 12 or 13 of them now.
Well, there's 12 out right now. We don't have them all listed right here, but they're we have dangers of prescription drugs and staying positive, bike safety, and I know Lieutenant Halsey read that a couple of weeks ago for us. Prevention of suicide, bullying, that was the first one that we wrote. Distracted driving, saying no to tobacco use, and the dangers of addiction. Those are the ones that we have here. We also have the police story, where policemen are our friends. A lot of times kids are afraid of policemen and they run and hide for them, and we wanted to make sure that they knew that they're our friends. They're there to help us. We have one on fire safety. What else?
Well, we've got
Recycling, which also talks about kids with special needs, how sometimes they're treated differently. And then we have one that's coming out that's called Be Kind. And it's about how to treat others with kindness, which I think is a real important issue right now in our country.
It is. And so we've got a wide variety of topics that are available to use in your communities. We're very thankful for how well the community has received the Gracie Guides here and the response that is outside of Mercer County where we're at, but also throughout the state of West Virginia. And we have many states that are also using this through the fact that the first 5 books are part of the elementary SAD curriculum for the SAD organizations. You say, well, what is SAD? Students Against Destructive Decisions. And it is a nationwide group of students, elementary, middle school, and high school student clubs that get together and support and reinforce helping our students, our children, make good decisions. And we're very honored to be part of that and excited about the opportunities that are there. If you would like to contact us about more information about these programs, you can email me at Derek, D-E-R-E-K, Wilson, Derek, D-E-R-E-K at strongcommunities.org, strongcommunities.org. And
you can also check on our website,
yes,
which is a little easier, authorangieWilson.com. And there's a way to get in touch with us through that website, authorangieWilson.com. So we just want to thank you, Lieutenant Halsey, for being with us today and for reading this story on a very important topic. And thank you, Dr. Wilson. And thank you, Kathy, for putting all this together. We really appreciate it. We thank everybody who is buying the books and supporting the Gracie's Guides. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.